Beyond Barriers, a podcast sharing heartfelt stories of tears, triumphs, and resilience in the world of parenting and supporting people with a disability. Join us as we go beyond barriers to celebrate the joys and navigate the hardships together. Hey guys, welcome back. It's Aiden and Indy here for episode 3 of Beyond Barriers, the podcast. How's your week, Indy?
Week's been good. Obviously, we've had a couple weeks off since our last episode. So we've been good. We've been doing lots of meet and greets with new participants, which is awesome, and a lot of girls now. So as you guys probably see on the Instagram and things like that, we're predominantly boy-based. So we've actually just picked up a few girls, which is awesome for all our girl staff and me.
I know. We have a lot of girl staff. So to get our girls participant ratio up is quite nice.
Yeah.
And the girls are so cute. So we're excited to have some girl participants on board.
Yeah, but that's basically what we've been up to, just, working on our spring camp as well. So that's all happening and all fun. That's like a few weeks away now.
I know, not too far away. And we did the Hawkesbury races. It was so much fun. Everyone looked so amazing. It was just such a nice day.
It was the best day. We had so much fun. So on Thursdays, a lot of our older participants come out with us. So we like to do kind of more adult activities. So yeah, the Hawkesbury races was a massive hit.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So on today's episode, we're going to be interviewing Carter's mum and dad, Sam and Pat. So we've had Aiden's had Carter in the company now for just coming on 4 years. So Carty has been diagnosed with level 3 ASD. He's nonverbal, and recently he's been diagnosed with Perthes disease, which has kind of left him wheelchair bound. So just wanted to do a little bit of a trigger warning as well. We will be speaking about some triggering topics in this episode, but we're so excited to have them here, and we look forward to you guys listening to it.
We can't wait.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 3 of Beyond Barriers, the podcast. We are so excited to be back. We've had a fortnight off, and we're back to you with some more parents as our guests. We have Sam and Pat Kenny here today. They are Carty's parents, which you guys would all know pretty well if you follow the Instagram. He's the cutest little man, almost famous, I would say.
I would say he's famous, especially in the Penrith region. He's quite well known. A lot of people have come up to me and said, "Oh my God, the boy with the long blonde hair," which has now been cut off.
It has.
By Indy and I.
I know.
But he still looks very handsome and he's very cute, and he's a big driving force behind our choice, as we will touch on in the podcast. He's a huge reason why we do what we do, and he's a huge reason why we continue to do what we do. So we'll start with Sam. We'll start with Sam, Carter's mother. We just wanted to start by just touching on a little bit for people who don't know Carter as well as we do. Just a little bit about his journey, how you dealt with finding out he was born with a disability, and how you reacted to that, and just the start of the journey.
Yeah, the early stages.
Yeah. So Carty was diagnosed just before he was 2, which is really rare. They don't diagnose before 3. But from about 6 months, you could tell there was something not quite right. I didn't see it. Pat saw it. I was like, "No, he's perfect. He's beautiful." And Pat's like, "He won't look at me. He won't go to anyone but you. He screams." And I was like, "Oh." But then I was starting to notice like he didn't babble, and that he didn't eye contact anybody but me. But there was no baba, mama, there was nothing at all. And it happened, and I asked my GP, and he's like, "No, boys develop later than girls." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then one time we were at the children's hospital because, of course, Carter got this horrible infection, and we had to take him to emergency when he was like just 1. And Pat was away, of course. Pat was away. He was in North Queensland somewhere. And I'm saying to the doctors, they always ask the developmental stages. And I'm like, "He's not babbling. He's not doing something. I'm scared something's wrong." And she was like, "If you think there's something wrong, there is something wrong." And so she said, "You follow your gut." So, we went down the whole getting his ears tested. And he had blocked ears, so he couldn't hear properly. So we got them drained, we got grommets put in, there's still no difference. And then we went down going to different paediatricians. Some were not that nice, which Pat disagreed with. Anyway, I got on there. That was not good. There was a lot of disagreements. Some were really quite rude, saying people overdiagnose autism now. You're pushing us into a diagnosis, which set Pat off. Anyway, So I got on the internet and then I found our paediatrician who we still have now, and she's amazing. And I took her in and she's like, yes. She diagnosed him with level 3 ASD. So then she goes, oh, I really want him to be seen by a developmental ped as well. So off goes the process of seeing more people. I remember going in, was at Westmead to PCAT, like the early childhood assessment team, and they're like, you do all these questions and they make Carter do all these things, and he couldn't do anything. And I remember I rang Pat, and even now it still makes me cry. I'm like, he doesn't just have autism, he's like really delayed, like he's got global delay. He's like, they said his communication level is like under a 3-month-old baby, and he was like nearly 2, I was like crying. It was just, so then we shook it off, and then, we started OT, and then it was hard, but then, he got into, you trucked along as best you can with like this kid who's not talking, who isn't interacting at all that much. And I think the best thing was when I found out about his preschool. It was an autism-specific preschool, and it was like the stars aligned. They just opened, so Carter could get in, and he got in there, and that's when, which was amazing. So he wasn't home with me all the time, because one of the other things, Carter did not sleep ever. So, he could survive on like 2 hours sleep, wasn't it? It was just...
If that.
Yeah, it was horrendous. So I was not sleeping. So he got to go to preschool for a day, and that's where we linked in with his speech therapist, who he's still got now. And I think that's when things started to come together a little bit, because I got a bit of a break. He got speech therapy, he got OT. We started another OT who seemed to understand him. And it was going okay, and my parents were amazing.
Oh,
my parents
can't
were
repay
like,
enough.
I would ring my mum in tears going, I'm exhausted, and up her and dad would come and they'd take Carter for the night. And then as he got older though, the behaviours started to come out, that's when I found it the most challenging. So things we were able to do, we stopped being able to do. Like, you couldn't take him out because he'd run off. Like, he was a runner. He would take off at the drop of a hat.
You lived at home because you were too fearful to go anywhere.
Yeah, and
Sorry,
then
this is sure.
No, it's true. We couldn't take him anywhere. And then if he wanted something, he was getting it. So we'd take him to the park. If someone was on the swing, he'd just go and push this other kid off the swing. He didn't care, or he'd just randomly just go around attacking other children. He didn't understand. It was, you had parents screaming at you, and I got scared to take him out to the shops and that, or anywhere, because I'd often get yelled at. Like, people would have a go at me, and I'm very much, I won't fight back, so I end up crying everywhere and ringing Pat up going, and, never happened when he was there to defend us. It was always when I was by myself.
Yeah. And I feel as though, like, the start of the journey, you're learning, and there's little things, and then as the behaviours start to come on, obviously, how old was he when he started showing signs of quite, aggressive behaviours? And
2.5, 3.
Yeah, but you didn't really notice it as much because he was little.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then when he hit preschool, and he would like attack other children.
Yeah.
And you didn't like, I'd be getting phone calls going, Carter's, done this or done that. And I'm like, oh, crap.
Yeah. And
So
then,
I used to get a lot of dirty looks, but I'd just give them back. So I thought, if you can't have the empathy to put your feet in someone else's shoes, and you want to act like a horrible human being, so my look was enough to deter people. But unfortunately, with Samantha, when she was by herself, people verbally assaulted her, and not very nice.
yeah. And, we've touched on
A very small percentage, I say that,
Yeah.
but it only takes one person at a day to ruin it.
Totally.
Yeah, and especially, like, you're just trying to do your everyday things, and people are making comments, and obviously ruining your day and not realizing the impact that they're having on that, or they may be. But we've touched on, like, as me and you have been close over now, like, you know, close to 3 years or 3.5 years. Just tell me a little bit about your experience of what it was like finding out things at the hospital after knowing that Carter got into his aggressive behaviours, and if you could just touch on those experiences that you had.
Mainly in the
So that was bad.
larger hospital stays, or
Yeah.
That was around COVID when it all went to hell, basically, because, you know, that was like he started kindy
yeah,
and his behaviours just started to skyrocket, and then it really sucked because, you know, my mum got really, really sick and mum went into the hospital. So it was very much reliant on Pat. Poor Pat had to do the hospital stay with Carter, and I was driving between two hospitals. I was seeing mum in the morning and Cardi and Pat in the afternoon. And Pat's still traumatised from the hospital stays.
I still struggle with the hospital. It's a fear I haven't broken it yet. I will hopefully one day, but so that was probably personally, and I know it was for Samantha, but I thought some very dark thoughts at those times. Even though Samantha was coming to see me, there wasn't a lot of other people around. I had a few friends come to visit, but because of COVID, you're isolated. And it wasn't his energy that was a problem. It was a problem that I couldn't do anything without him wanting to do it, and that's when his behaviours changed to him being controlling. And I believe that started that process. And there were some hard things with, particularly, a couple of doctors that told me things like I should give him fish oil and that'll fix him, and some really, really crazy stuff. And I know they might have been thinking, oh, well, fish oil might help, but it's the way that people explain things, and sometimes it doesn't matter what job you do. People either love the job they do and they're there to do it, or they're just rolling the circles. And then, unfortunately, sometimes, especially with medical positions and things like that, they desensitise to what they do, and I found that really hard in the hospital. Watching him go through so much pain.
And they're self-harming. The self-harming was the most horrendous thing I've ever seen.
I didn't care for myself. As a man, I couldn't tell you how many times I cried. He went to sleep and I laid in the bed and I just cried. And the nurses would come in and I'd hide my head. I'm not crying, but it was is probably the hardest thing that I've gone through in life, and that includes losing, family and parent, and the grief and the soul destroying. Even now talking about it, because we don't really talk about stuff that happened in the past a lot. We acknowledge, but it's still, you can feel it. It was a real trauma, and I'm lucky that Samantha is stronger than me in so many ways, because I can go downhill. I went through bouts of depression and still do now, up and down, but she's like a rock and tells me everything's going to be okay. I bounce back, and it's, it's pretty hard to admit, but if you don't admit it to yourself, you're not going to be able to, work through things. And if you can't help yourself, then you can't help anyone, else around you. The hardest thing I found in the hospital was I had to get to the point where I basically said that, do I have to kill myself to have someone help? Because, in all honesty, I didn't say the words, but I said, I'm done. I've got.
Yeah. Pat was on because they did a lot of video calls. He's saying, do I have to do that? I'm on that video call just crying.
Yeah. It was like, there's no answers to anything. And it's like, we'll put you in this special room. and that's great. But then you're there by yourself, and yeah, I've never felt so helpless in my life.
The isolation is so real. You're isolated.
Yeah.
For everyone listening who doesn't really know Carter, and this is probably quite close to home to me because like I've obviously like dealt with Carter, and that's probably the main reason why like I've taken him on so thoroughly and spent so much time with him. But if you could just explain like what were the type of things you were experiencing when it came to the self-harm?
It was the most horrendous thing you've ever seen. Like he would just like drop to the ground and like smash his head on the
his knees.
Yeah, just like fling himself bodily onto the ground, and he'd like smash his head into the concrete. He's like, our house is brick, and he'd just smash his head like constantly into the brick wall, and then
the house looked like a domestic violence scene.
It was,
there's not a panel in.
No.
I mean, when you come in now, it's still not the Taj Mahal, but it looks a lot better because there was literally a hole in every.
In the bathroom, he smashed the tiles.
Yeah, he broke our bathroom floor.
Yeah, he smashed the glass. Like he went through the glass in the lounge room. Like, we were just blessed he didn't do damage to himself somehow.
Yeah. Is this what led you guys to go to the hospital during that COVID period? Like the self-harm or?
We had to. Like he was just, we couldn't keep him safe.
Yeah.
So we did, sorry.
Pat was driving.
I was working. I don't know how, I still look back and I don't know how I done it. But I was basically, because Samantha struggles to drive at night. So I was driving as soon as it got to dark till sunrise. And then
to keep him safe because he wouldn't sleep then. He just would not sleep at all.
And I couldn't stop the car. Like if I stopped at a set of lights or something, he'd start hitting and this went on for months. And we got to the point where we'd been to emergency and we just weren't getting...
They over-medicated him.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, he's got autism, he's got delays. Okay, here you go, he's an antipsychotic. And they increased it. And I was always very wary about going down the path anyway. I was like, I remember clearly saying to Pat, I feel like we started. It's like we're going down the rabbit hole. We'll never get out of it. And ta-da, we'll never get out of it.
No, we can't reverse. We can manage, but there's no way to reverse it because his behaviours take the self-harming away. I believe the self-harming come from the fact that he couldn't communicate his pain to us. And there was no other way for him to deal with it once he found a rhythm in his autism. And these are only my personal beliefs. Obviously, I'm not a GP, but if you can be driven in a car continuously and the pain you're in is manageable and then you stop it, it's not, well, it's something psychological happening there to make that kind of happen because obviously the pain for him was real.
He ended up having an infected tooth.
Yeah.
That was what they think caused the extreme behaviour, the infected tooth and the over-medication of one of the antipsychotics.
Wow.
That they
How long did it take for them to work that out?
6 months.
It's crazy.
We had no life. Poor Pat was driving all night. I was driving all day. It was COVID. Poor Cooper. I'll never, ever know what that's done to him to see his brother.
It's traumatised Cooper.
To see what his brother's done.
And even like our other son is extremely sensitive and he has empathy beyond his means. I didn't have it till 8 kids. The amount of empathy he has a 10-year-old, I didn't have until 35. And that's it's hard for what he's had to see and
to see your brother like smashing himself into brick walls and smashing himself through a glass window,
or either attacking him and him saying, "I love you." Why are you doing this? And he's like, well, we had to go through the whole explaining with him that he doesn't understand what he's doing and he does love you. He just doesn't know how to communicate. So that took a few psychology visits for Cooper to start to wrap his head around.
Yeah.
I'm like, we have to make sure Cooper's like in 10 years' time not going to stand on the top of a building and start
Just fly
shooting
off.
people because, he's been traumatised by his brother. So
Yeah.
Cooper's, had checked out. And
I think you're right. Like, I think that's so real in the sense of like it, and we spoke about this with every sibling, like it affects them just like how it would affect you guys, and they probably don't understand as much. So the fact that you go and get him that, that help, and how have you found, like, obviously now that Cardi's a little bit older, he's 9. Like Cooper's the most empathetic boy. I see it all the
know.
time. How, like, do you think that all that's helping, like doing the psychology, like talking to him about Cardi?
I think it does. I think he probably very wise beyond his years in some ways.
Yeah.
Like he's so protective. Like he will take on the role of protector for Carter without thinking. Like in the burst when Carter can get really aggressive, and he gets aggressive towards me mainly now. And Cooper's like when Carter just went at me horribly, and Cooper stepped in front to protect me. And I'm like, you don't have to do that. Like you're 10.
Yeah.
See,
Cooper's very anxious.
Cooper's very anxious, and he hears things, and it's hard to have conversations with the time that you have in between. And he almost acts like a parent, and we're extremely mindful of the fact that he needs to be a kid, and we tell him that all the time, but he kind of wants to help. So when I have my bruised ribs, right, and he actually said, Mum, Dad, I'll pull Carter to bed.
Yeah.
It was like, mate, you don't have to do it. He said, no, I love you guys so much, I want to do it. And as a parent, it's a really hard thing to go, if I let him do this, are we doing the right thing by him? Like are we making a rub for his back? Or I think the way is with him and how his personality is formed, he will feel a sense of achievement that he's helped and feel good within himself, as long as he's not made to do too many things as a task. So
He's gonna be an amazing dad.
yeah.
He's,
He'd be a great
he's
dad.
so emotionally
it'd be
grown
super
up.
cool. Yeah.
But
And just like, obviously touching on how much of it has affected Cooper and how much he's seen and how much he's gone through. On a positive note, having support and like meeting you guys, how much is having support and being able to get support workers and have a service that you trust with Carter, how much has that affected and or helped like your family, as of now?
I don't know if I'll be here.
yeah,
If not,
it's
I don't mean to sound dark, but
it's kind of enabled us to get stuff done, because before we had anyone, like Cooper did like karate and stuff like that, and then like Coop would be inside doing it, and I'd be outside walking around the building with Carter, because if Carter got away from me, Carter would charge into the lesson and start hitting hitting all the kids, and
Black
or
belt.
He was just joining in.
He's just joining in.
it was just you
knockout
couldn't.
sensei.
You couldn't do anything. So it's given us like that bit of it's given me a breather.
Yeah.
And it gives me, because the isolation factor is very real. I think when you have like a kid like Carter, you find out who your friends are, and you're either lucky enough to keep them that they're good enough, or they drop away. Pat's lucky he's got friends that are amazing who would go to the hospital and stand outside the hospital and just talk to him to keep him sane after they've worked like 12 hours.
Yeah.
So he's been really lucky. I wasn't that lucky. Mine all fell off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, having someone come in and help has let me get out. Mainly with Cooper, but still, it's good Cooper gets to do stuff.
So I get to take Cooper fishing now, and I couldn't do that before. And we bond, it's us, and poor Samantha's at home probably doing the washing at the time or something. But regardless, it's a shared part.
And the fact that when people come to pick Cardi up, and Cooper goes rushing outside because he wants to see everyone.
So cute.
And especially now he's playing football, right? Like just a small thing from when you've gone and seen him play, or when you ask him about it, or when Jet asks him about how's your footy going, and he's just floats around on cloud nine. He's so happy that people, care. That bit's really, really good. It's just we're just blessed with Cooper.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Just a
He
sweetheart.
is so beautiful. And it must have taken a big strain on your relationship together, because, you must distributing your time evenly.
Your face.
Well, you don't distribute your time evenly to Carter and Cooper. It's predominantly Carter, and that's the truth. He needs help, but you do as much as you can for Cooper. So where do you guys find the time for yourselves?
We probably still haven't.
You don't.
To be honest. It'll come. It's a long road.
One day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We I think the strength between us is we know we love each other. And things might get different, and I'm a firecracker at times, and she's the calm one.
Because we're as complete opposite as you can ever get.
Yeah, pretty
Like,
much.
it's just-
Yeah. We are.
it's just-
But from what everybody in our family's gone through this period of time, and I'll mention just one thing off the cuff. Finding out a diagnosis about your child that is probably not going to get much better, leads you into a stage of grief. And all the things that you wanted in your life, like if you had 2 boys, for example, they're going to play cops and robbers and cowboys and Indians. I don't know if they're allowed to do that anymore, but you know what I mean? Like they're going to have certain different games or things that they do, and you're going to get them to watch, to hear them say their first words. And when you find out like that with something, there's a massive grieving process you go through, and you don't know you're going through it. You just feel lost and sad, and it's really hard to explain. If anybody and everybody goes through the world, if anyone's ever lost someone that they love so much, that grief continues, because you want to see those things, and then you feel bad that child can't experience them, and then for their sibling you feel bad that they're missing out on some of these social skills that they probably should have, because they're seeing so much of a parent. So I think for anybody that comes into anywhere near a situation that we have, I think letting out their grief is probably the most important thing to do, because you can't move forward if you're always grieving.
And that's such a great point, because I also, when I look at Carter, he's probably taught me so many things that he wouldn't even know that he's teaching me. And I feel like every time after I drop him home or look after him, like I wish he could talk to me and just say thanks for a great day, or I enjoyed that today. And I feel like, especially how close I am with him, I wish I could tell him and he would understand that I'm saying he's changed my life completely. He allows me to look through his world and have so much appreciation for a lot of things, and he's gifted me so many good times, and he's brought me close to a lot of people, and he wouldn't even know it, but he's a huge connector at Our Choice and family and friends, and he has such a big impact on people's lives, and he wouldn't even know it. So
there's a connection that you have, and now Indy has, and there's a few special people.
He doesn't have it. He likes people, but he doesn't have he has a straight away there was something with you, and even it was
immediately with when Aiden went.
Even though I was I remember that day because you're the first person to ever take him away from the house.
I could imagine that was the show. I was about to ask, how do you cope with that?
I
could imagine.
That was great. I dug a hole in the backyard.
Yeah.
Overprotective dad. Thank God he's not a little girl. Far out.
Oh, God. It is. It's scary because you're always if something happens, he can't tell me because he's completely non-verbal.
And it's a real fear, having a non-verbal child.
Yeah.
There has to be so much trust.
Totally.
But no, there was something there with the two of you pretty much straight away. And there's been a couple over the years that but like you and Shay's been with him just as long. Like he's got something special with the both of you. And I always live very uneasily in fear that something's going to happen to, like she'll get pregnant or like you'll disappear or something will go wrong.
You know,
It's like,
if you guys move to Alaska, we're coming.
Yeah.
yeah.
You're more than welcome.
No, please. I don't think we could live without Carter now. Legit.
No.
I honestly, because I think obviously I've only met Carter a year ago, and like what Aiden says, like the impact he has like on my life, and like I just adore him. Like I think he's like, it makes me cry because I just think he's like, he really, I don't know.
There is something about him.
Yeah, and it's like it's it is emotional because of the story about him and all the things that he's gone through, and when you get to see him put a smile on his face, like that's like the epitome of like why we do it. And there's little stories that I could even tell about India. I remember her first time she ever took Carter by herself, and she was so proud because I was telling her about his behaviors and what to watch and giving it a prompting. Okay, he might do this. And they had the best day ever. And she sent a selfie with him and they were smiling. And I was like, yes. And anyway, but these are the little stories that you guys don't even know about really. And she called me on the way home and absolute tears. And I said, oh my God, like he smacked her. I said, that damn toy, he's got her.
Yeah.
I went, oh no. I said, what's wrong? Like, you're okay? Like, do you need me to come? She goes, no, she goes, oh, like, how do I help him more? And I said, I said, you don't even realize it. I said, you don't even realize it, but by you having that nice afternoon with him, you've helped him times 100.
Yeah.
And you don't even know.
Yeah.
So the impact he's had on Indy and like their little friendship that they've got that, you don't always get the chance to film or take a photo and send to you because you just let it happen.
Yeah.
It's pretty special. So, there's so many positives amongst a bunch of negatives.
Yeah.
But it's just how you deal with the negatives.
As parents as well, like, can you guys, like you were saying, like you knew, it's like a feeling, like when he met Aiden, when he met Shay, that they were like going to connect. You, like, I guess this is more for parents, like when we send like workers that you might have a weird feeling about, do you feel that straight away, or do you notice it when he comes home?
Go with your gut.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times.
9 times out of 10,
Yeah.
your gut is.
And I'm always super cautious.
Yeah.
Like when a new person pops up on the app,
Super.
I always like text Aiden, who is this
Honey,
person?
honey, I'm going to text Aiden. Go.
Yeah.
There's new people. I don't like new people. I'm going to tell him it's a new person. I don't like new people.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want me to call him? No. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're very tolerant of me like saying, who is this person?
Yeah.
Do they know how to manage him?
Fair
Because
enough.
I don't know that, and it's just because I trust you that I'm like, okay, they'll be fine.
And,
So-
as much as that's the thing I think we touched on our first episode, our staff is purely picked based on the heart. Like I know that, if they do even have a run-in with Cardi, for example, or another, I know that the love's there. They may get it wrong or they may not know how to handle situations. However, I know that they have his best interests at heart, which is that's all, and you'd know better than anyone. Like that's the main thing, trust. And and I
Look, everyone
I
can
see that.
Everyone can make mistakes.
Yep.
Always remember people saying, well, after we had our first child, there's no book on bringing up kids. There's no book on bringing up kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd hate to say his encyclopedia, but you know what I mean. Like it'd have to be. It'd have to be.
It'd be a dictionary.
It could be printed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
But you
it's
do
so
know.
true.
But as soon as like that people that are going to be good people for him, like, because even with when he started school, because you can't, it's like one of the things, like, you don't get to pick what school he goes to. Like it goes to a panel and then, they choose.
Someone else is in control of his
Yeah, it's
destiny.
like you lose a lot of control. And then, we went to the school and we met the principal, Julie, and she's just,
the bomb.
oh, yeah, like hands down.
Yeah, the bomb.
She's amazing. Like
Yeah.
I was like, okay, something's
Nothing's a problem.
happened. This is where we're meant to be.
Yeah.
It's like his teacher who he's got now. Like she's.
So those are the people, and I'm not trying to piss in your pocket when I say this. I know you're allowed to say that on a podcast. But
You can say that. I won't edit it out.
You say
You can
piss in
say
the pocket.
piss in
okay.
the pocket's all
Piss
right.
in the pocket.
I'm going to call it that. Episode 3, piss in the pocket.
But there are certain people I believe are meant to do things.
And who
Right.
can change, yeah.
Yeah, I think you guys are doing what you're doing. You can see because, and his principal at school and his teacher and I could go on to name other people keep going, but there are certain people that whether they've come and found it and they've said, okay, this is what I want to do, and you really quickly you can tell people that are there for the
Yeah, you
the
get a
job.
feeling.
Yeah.
or for the money. You get it in your first personal expression when you talk to someone. Yeah, it's okay. Some people might be shy and things like that, but you do still get a read.
Yeah.
We've been pretty.
Because I'm not, I
Pretty good,
always very
actually.
suspicious. I'm very
Yeah.
suspicious
Yeah.
of everyone first off. I don't trust anyone. And sometimes I'll need Pat to come in and tell me if I'm just overreading because I'm being too overprotective, which I tend to do.
You have every right to be in the situation.
I agree.
But yeah,
So-
it is.
I think before we head to our very last question, I just probably onto what you gauging from what you guys have been speaking about. The one thing that I would probably ask you is, and I probably haven't asked you guys this as much as we talk about 1,000,001 things, is what do you see for Carter's future? So what do you see for Carter in 10, 15, 5 years? What do you see for Cardi?
I want him to be happy.
Yeah.
We tend not to talk about it because it's like,
It gets deep.
it's and it is scary. Like it's like you don't want to think about what's going to happen to him when we're not here. That literally keeps me up at night. Yeah, so I want him to be happy. I want him to have a productive life, and I think he can give that. It may not be in a typical way, but I think he has so much to offer.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's like a little ball of sunshine, and
Once people understand Carter
exactly.
with feelings and emotions, you understand that we need to come to the middle or further to find him, to find a connection, like a deep connection. I mean, and we establish that now as parents. I remember watching a video. Sorry, I just hacked in on you, but I remember watching a video when I was first looking up autism and reading and going through, and I go to listen to things like this to find out what I'm feeling, information, what we're doing. I remember there was a father over in the UK, and his child was 14, and he said it took to the time for him to get to 11 to get a bond with his child. But once he got that bond, they never lost it, and they had this special relationship where they couldn't talk, but it was a mutual understanding of certain things, whether it be love, whether it be happiness, whether it be whatever emotion, they clicked.
Yep.
And so they found each other in between a way. And a lot of times with kids with disabilities, not the good ones, but a lot of people, it's not their fault. I'm not saying it badly because people just don't understand it unless it's in front of them.
Yep.
We wouldn't understand what we understand now unless we had beautiful Cardi.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but they look at it and say, okay, how could I typically communicate? They go, well, okay, well, I've got to think that that's not the way they think and what they do. And yeah, so that sort of coming together piece is something that can happen all over the place for all, I believe, all kinds of disabilities, not just things that are neurological.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I cut you off again, sorry.
But I think we're both just wanting to be happy.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's all you ever want.
I like Samantha, I don't sleep some nights, or randomly when I'm by myself just stare at a wall, and my biggest fear is someone, hurts him.
Good luck. Good luck. Good luck.
Yeah.
But
like we can't. Cooper has said to us quite often, as he does, I'll look after my brother, but you can't expect a sibling to take their life. they might choose to get married and have a job that moves overseas, or you can't restrict, and we would not.
He's not moving overseas.
Yeah. I was like, as if Sam's going to let that happen.
I don't think Sam's going to let me move overseas either. Good luck if I want to play footy over there.
But the hard thing is that is really that's what we want for him and what we fear for him. Can be similar. I'd like him just to be able to have a limited amount of communication for him to feel freer.
Yep.
In his own mind, to take away the frustration that he feels every day of the week, every minute, I'm sure. And he must be such a tolerant kid to not lose the plot continuously because, I got frustrated last week when I was in Korea and no one speaks English.
Yeah.
And I had to keep picking up a phone and
working it out.
Yeah.
and and that's me being spoiled.
Yeah.
I'd like him to be able to form some kind of communication. We go up and down with hope, and hope's a hard thing because the more hope you have, the more disappointment you get. But I guess you can't base things on not doing it because of disappointment, because then you have no hope.
Yep.
And the day you lose hope, and Samantha has taught me this because I've gone down a fair few times, you can't just give up. So I guess I just want, when we're not here, to someone not to give up on him. That's yeah.
Well, he's loved, and he's very, very well supported, especially here at Our Choice. We all love him, and
A rock star.
He is a rock star. He's a little rock
He
star.
is.
He is a rock star, and everyone loves him. Everyone who he meets, he touches, and no matter what. So I think our last little thing, it's as much as you guys have given us, and the people listening and the parents listening, which is the whole reason of this podcast, a beautiful insight into the raw, the raw dealings of Carter and being parents of a kid with, self-harming behaviours and so on. But if you could just do one more little thing for us, it would be to everyone out there, what's one quote that you live by?
For me, it's you have to celebrate the small wins, because you might not get the big wins with someone with Carter's challenges, but the little wins make such an impact. Like when he wears a hat at the Easter hat parade, or when he finally learns to hold the pencil, or when he learns, he started to use his communication device. Like, it might not seem like a big deal to other people, but for me, I celebrate all those small wins, and that makes it's good. It gets me through every single day.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Pat?
I don't have a quote, to be honest. I'm not a big quote person. Everything for me is looking at feet in other shoes. Probably don't do that with you enough, but
You're like, now that I say that.
I'm going to get scum for that. No, it is, revolving around that with most things,
Yeah. Well,
Before you cut off, I'm the king of one last thing.
hit me
Right.
with it.
We've spoken a lot about the grief and the trauma and the hard things that they go through. I just wanted to say, we're blessed. He's so many beautiful things come out of Carter, and I'd sometimes get annoyed, and it's me being selfish, but sometimes I'd see all these beautiful photos coming through, and I get a little upset because I'm like, why does he do that for me? Samantha said to me one day, he does it for you all the time, you just don't notice it. And I'm like, but I'm his dad, I feel like I'm not doing enough for him, and other people could come in and make him happy, and I just felt a bit like a failure, And then she kept telling me, no, he does it, you just don't pick up because you're so concerned about everything else going on, about whether it be work, whether it be what you're going to do for Cooper, whether it be what you're going to do around the house. You just don't see those things. And I'll tell you, when I come back last week and he come in from school and he had this giant, he hadn't seen me for 9 days, and he had this giant smile on his face, and he got up and he laughed and he actually gave me a kiss on the cheek. You know, he doesn't use, you know, he just does.
Yeah, he does
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Face.
And I looked at Samantha and I just smiled and it made my heart, you know, it was beautiful. And so I just wanted to say out of, I guess I know I spoke about a lot of things that were bad. I mean, yeah, he's a beautiful kid.
He is.
Yes,
He so is. I just love him.
she does.
Oh my God, I can't. But yeah, no, I just like thank you so much for being so raw and honest with, you know, the struggles and like obviously we know that you both love him to death and like you're the best parents to him and we see that. Like you can still see it. Like, you know, he can't tell us, but we know. Like when I drop him home to you, Sam, and he's kissing you and then when Pat's wheeling him off, like you're just such a team. And I think like just, yeah, it's a true testament to the way you guys raise him. And yeah, like he's just the most beautiful little boy. And you're right, like he provides so much smiles, but also there's challenges that come with his challenges for you guys. And we're just grateful that you could let our audience kind of know where, you know, how it's been for you guys.
Yeah, we're grateful to be a part of his journey, and I've loved every second of it. There's not one time where I've not enjoyed taking him out. So that is the truth.
Apart from the haircut.
Apart from the haircut, but that's for another episode. How to give Carter a haircut. Dear. Anyway.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And that wraps us out.
That's it. Episode 3 finished. Thank you.